This is Anthony Pascal.
And this is Laurie Elster, and this is the All Access Star Trek podcast. It's our first podcast of the new year. So we've invited some friends to come because we want to talk about Star Trek in 2025 and 2026. So we have with us today our TrekMovie comics reviewer and all-around expert, Joe Andosca.
Hello. Happy New Year.
From the Salon, we have our friend Trevor Hook.
What up, nerds?
And from the Seventh Rule and Creation, we have Dr. Marie Segal.
Hello.
I love all your credentials. Like we even act like she's a real doctor.
Well, not the PhDs are real doctors, but
yes, what I mean.
You're an MD, like McCoy.
Yes.
As it were.
or Dr. Crusher.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Yes. So this is going to be loosey-goosey, as it were, but just so you know, we've done some kind of roundup stuff on the site that can maybe help you follow along on this podcast. We did a top stories of 2025, our best of 2025, and then a preview of 2026, which we're in now. It is now officially 2026, right?
It is.
Maybe people could say, what were your top stories of 2025? Anyone have a thing that really, like, this was the biggest thing for you that happened for Star Trek, that is, in 2025?
I'm going to say the movie announcement was pretty big because they officially ended the Kelvin universe era. And then they announced a new movie with, and I know it's John Francis Daley and Jonathan
Goldstein.
There you go. I always just remember the Freaks and Geeks kid. But the fact that they are making, like, this feels like we're actually really going to get a movie. Do you guys agree?
What makes you think that this time?
It feels like it feels so much more concrete to me than these other. I mean, yes, they didn't talk about story. And they have definitely made big announcements and paraded people out like, here's JJ. And then whatever they've done. Somehow, I feel like these guys are hot right now. I don't know if they showed up with a pitch or how it came to them. I want to know that whole story. But it does feel somehow more grounded.
I think that there's a business imperative at Paramount now to get Star Trek on the big screen for a number of reasons. I mean, they've said it's priority. They're upping their projected release schedule by 50%. And they've said they need to do more franchises. And then they ended J.J. Abrams' time with Star Trek. And they brought these guys in not only to oversee the movie, but their production company, so it isn't just let's hire another scriptwriter and throw him at it and see what happens. This is a complete changing of the guard and, under new management. So all signs point to this actually happening, which is why we made it our top story of the year. So, yeah, I agree with Laurie on that one. It was huge news. And we got to tell Jonathan Frakes on this podcast. And he's
true.
Like, what?
He had no idea.
I agree. It feels more concrete. It also makes me less nervous than some of the other rumored pitches. For reasons I can't fully articulate, it doesn't scare me as much as some of the other prospects or
words like idiots. Origin movie scared me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. and no offense, but Quentin Tarantino scared me for Star Trek. For Star Trek.
I've always said I really want to see the Quentin Tarantino movie. It's just it would be its own thing. It wouldn't fit into anything, but that's fine, So, but that certainly wasn't ever going to be the new direction to set off a new franchise. It was just a kind of a lark that could have been part of a larger group of Star Trek movies. So, Anne-Marie, do you have any thoughts on this movie or just what you think was your biggest Star Trek 2025 story?
This was a huge thing. Also, the fact that we don't have to hear about possible Kelvin movies every week, like for years on end anymore, is kind of like a nice relief. Although there is a new movie now to hear about because there's just constantly movie news. But yeah, I mean, it does feel more real because these two people are like actually working so much right now. You would think they wouldn't want to be like wasting their time if they didn't have more signs that this was actually going to happen in place. Also, the fact that Paramount is like pushing to release lots more movies. from franchises.
Yeah, and these guys are working. They were working for Skydance on this new movie with Ryan Reynolds. That's kind of, I think, how they got their foot in the door. So after Skydance took over, they were familiar with these guys who had also worked with Paramount on the Dungeons & Dragons movie. So it seemed like a good fit for them all around. And so, yeah, the big question is, how fast can they get going? Obviously 2026 isn't going to happen, but could they get a movie into theaters in 2027? That's possible. They would have to go into pre-production this year, but that's possible. So,
and what kind of budget are they going to have for this too? Like, is Paramount going to write a blank check? Or are they going to be more conservative in it? I mean, that's the thing, is like, when you throw a bunch of money at some of these movies, it's kind of hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 120 million, something like that. I know that. Yeah, I mean, they know they can't do $200 million or more, because they're just never going to get Avengers money. But you go under 100, you don't get a tentpole out of a $50 million movie. So they're going to try to figure out how to create a tentpole without spending tentpole money. We'll see if that happens.
Couldn't they save a ton by just having it take place on Earth in 2026? I'm kidding. We're not doing that.
There could be a car chase, maybe.
Like Picard season 2. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trigger everyone. But I had to bring it up.
Thanks, Trev.
But any other, there's more stuff happened in 2025. I mean, we already talked about this, but all the corporate stuff, I think, I think so many things that are happening or were happening are kind of ripple effects from the Skydance takeover. And I think we've only just started to see those ripple effects.
And it's, in addition to this very specific implications in terms of business and money and budgets and Star Trek, it's raised a lot of political issues for a lot of fans too, who aren't big fans of the Ellisons. And so it's a little messy.
This isn't going to impact Star Trek, the political stuff. They're not going to try to...
not in terms of, I think, the content, not like the writing of it.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff you're talking about has more to do with regulations and certainly CBS News. But for a scripted sci-fi show, it's not going to ripple down to that. But yeah, no, there's definitely concerns about political agendas being involved on the corporate level.
And who's profiting? I mean, there are people, I think, who are seriously looking at where they're spending and I'm talking about consumers at a very basic level, looking at where they're going to spend their money. And people love Star Trek and want to support it, but they don't. I've seen a lot of people, and again, it's just anecdotal, whatever I see on social, but people who don't want to support, let's say, Paramount Plus with things the way they are now, particularly over the journalism issues. So it affects Star Trek in a very different sort of way.
In addition, like all the other implications, like licensing, which clearly is like all over the place right now. And then it'll be really interesting to see like what happens with Alex Kurtzman, since his contract, though, it'll be like really interesting to see what happens with that. And then like what effect that would have on Star Trek and who would take his place if it doesn't get renewed. Yeah.
He had a contract that started, first he was contracted to make the new show. Then they gave him an overall deal in 2018 through to 2021. Then that was extended to 2026. And I think roughly the middle of 2026. Yeah, this is, in theory, his last year with Paramount. But we don't know whether it will be extended or not. And if so, what the nature of that extension would be.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are a lot of different options for that.
And how they affect any like potential. I know one of your like recent amazing articles was about Alex Kurtzman hinting at shows in development, which seems to be what he always does. But just like what would happen with that? Like, because obviously a new show isn't going to be made by the time that his contract's up in August, if for any reason it didn't get extended. Super fascinating. Yeah, it's funny, when Tony was writing that article, I said, is this from an old interview?
And he was like, nope.
Yeah.
Because I just assumed it was if Alex is talking about stuff in development, which is interesting.
Well, I mean, when he was hired in 2018, he was given a production budget and a development budget. It is his job under his contract to develop Star Trek shows. Now, and he's going to do that up until the day he walks out the door. I mean, he's got the money to do it. Like, for example, he gave, Tawny Newsome and Justin Simeon were paid to write the live action pilot, and I know that there are others who have developed projects that didn't go anywhere, which is what that's just standard operating procedure. Yeah. So of course he's got projects, the question is, do any of them have a green light? I think the chances of that are, it's possible, but less than 50%.
Well, interesting that I know in everybody's wrap up posts after Strange New Worlds, there was a hint of maybe being back in Celia's, and I was like, oh, did she run this by and it's just, which would imply year one, I would assume, but so interesting.
Well, as I understand it, no decision has been made, and they didn't do. I mean, Kate Mulgrew famously said, when she finished giving her last line on her last day, some carpenter walked up and just started unbolting the captain's chair. That didn't happen. Now it could. I'm going to check back and see if the sets are still there, but they were there last week. I know that. So that doesn't. But I don't think any decision's been made on year one. I don't think it has a high chance of happening. I think they certainly want to see how season 4 does, which won't happen for 6 months. And I guess all these shows were made under Secret Hideout. Who knows? He doesn't own anything, right? He's just a contractor. He's like someone you hire to put in drywall. So, if they bring in someone new, they could, just because he put in the first layer of drywall, they could have someone put in the second layer. He doesn't own the wall. And so someone else could make, I'm sure Akiva doesn't care. Anyone could make year one. He would be happy to have his production company make year one, in fact. But changing from one production company to another is complicated. There's all those people and assets and everything, all the post-production. I mean, Secret Hideout is going to be busy making. There's no way they could finish season 2 of season 2 of Academy and season 5 of Strange New World by the middle of next year. So I think no matter what, something has to be extended just so that they could deliver the stuff that they shot this year. So I don't know. It's complicated. My bet is they're going to put Daly and Goldstein in charge of everything, including TV, because they want it all to be integrated.
I need to know so much more about them. That is an interesting, possibly scary thought. I don't know.
I would love for that to be the case, though, so that everything is connected and everything makes sense.
Yeah, I just feel because I don't know much about what they think about Star Trek or what they think it is or how they view it or how they see it, than to have them overseeing everything. For me, the movies have never been as good as the show, although I loved the original series movies were, to me, just more giant overblown episodes. So I loved them for that. But I don't think that will fly in today's market, a big giant overblown episode, which is actually what I want out of a movie.
I mean, if you look at how Marvel has done this, especially, I wouldn't want to see the TV shows feel like they are just almost in service of the movies. In other words, the TV, they do a season of a TV show that almost feels like they're just setting up a storyline or a character for a big budget tentpole. And that's the only purpose of this, say, 6 episode, 7, season of something. And then, Marvel has run into the issue of then when you go to a movie, you feel like, oh wait, who's this guy? And do I need to watch all these Disney Plus shows just to watch the movie now?
Right.
There's a lot of homework in that. Yeah.
So I'm all for integration, but not where it feels like you need to do homework to either watch the movies or watch the TV shows.
And Star Wars was the same way. It ended up being the same thing, yeah.
It's interesting because the way that Alex has always talked about the shows as someone running the TV side is that he's been having this something different for everyone approach. Like, we'll get this audience, we'll get young people with this one, and we'll get people who want, the different tones. And so this is almost the opposite of saying, like, I'm not saying, oh, everything would now be the same, because it wouldn't. And I think they're too smart to do that. But it's almost an effort to unite all of the audience instead of this sort of splintering that has been maybe suggested as an option from Alex and team.
But look at what James Gunn is doing. You look at a show like Peacemaker and the tone that show has, and then you look at the Superman movie. They're totally different, even though they are completely integrated. There's characters that go back and forth between the latest season of Peacemaker. I don't know who's seen it here or not, but it's an amazing. Yeah. I think it's a great show, and I thought Superman was a great movie, but they're very different.
Are they for the same type of audience, do you think? That's my question.
No.
They can be for different audiences, and there's an animated show which can be yet for a different audience. And it looks like the Supergirl movie is for yet an even different audience. You don't need to have one size fits all. And I think for Star Trek,
so it's not one aesthetic.
I would be concerned about the fact that when Alex says, sure, we do this and we do that, and they're all for different audiences. Yeah, but as of 2027, you've got one show, Starfleet Academy.
Yes.
Unless one of these other mythical shows really does launch, once Strange New Worlds winds up, you've only got the one thing. So it starts, by default becoming the only thing, and therefore it needs to please everyone.
Yes. Also, if you had shows for everybody, like, okay, that's all well and good, but then you didn't make any merch at all for Prodigy for children. And like all of that, it's just like, it's one thing in theory, but then you also have to like implement it in all the areas it needs implementation. And we just obviously saw a lacking in that, sadly.
Yeah.
The lack of merchandising is so frustrating to somebody who wants to spend their money on Star Trek stuff. It really,
yes.
Take my monies, like make the cool thing. Why we've all heard the Moopsie argument. Like, why was Moopsie was a character and it took a year and a half to actually be able to buy a Moopsie. It doesn't make sense.
A blob.
Like, it's literally just a puff of cotton. Like, it's not hard. It's just put some eyeballs on it and sell it to me. I'll pay $25 for it.
Just say Moopsie as you hand it over.
It's fine.
We're good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Obviously, there's a new team in charge of licensing. They are making decisions. We're seeing license holders leaving, which is terrible. So obviously they have big plans for Star Trek. Otherwise, they wouldn't leave money on the table. But we don't know what those plans are. We can only hope that they're realistic and ambitious at the same time. It's going to be a big year to keep an eye out of, like, oh, they brought in this big, like Hasbro or something, maybe we'll see some of that stuff. I don't think we will until the new movie comes out, though, when we really start seeing some big licensees come back.
Although Magic's owned by Hasbro.
Well, okay, that's true.
Nice to see.
Yeah. And Magic the Gathering is pretty cool. That's one of the 2026 things.
I don't think anyone's ever said that phrase before. Magic the Gathering is pretty cool.
Yes, my brother's a semi-retired professional Magic player.
I guess that's a merch opportunity. Make a TrekMovie t-shirt that just says Magic the Gathering. It's pretty cool.
With Tony's, in quotes, with Tony's name underneath.
I was speaking from a kind of demographic business point of view. I've only played the game once, and it was like 20 years ago. So I just appreciate that it's happening,
Yeah,
so,
me too. I jest, but I am too.
Can I just ask a question about the movie again, going back to the movie real quick?
Yeah.
Where they said that it doesn't have any tie to anything that's already existing, right? Can we talk a little bit about that? And then also the second
Star Trek.
And then right, and then like going back to integrating everything. But if they've already said that it's not going to be part of anything that's already existing, I don't know if we want to speculate on what that means.
Well, I mean, that it is quite astounding that if that is all true, that is it's extremely rare for a franchise to do something like that. So certainly every Star Trek movie was tied to something. The original series, the Next Generation, and then a spin on the original series. We've only seen that with the launch of a new TV series like Next Generation, but when you look at Marvel, every movie is tied into characters that are familiar, whether it's Iron Man or, Spider-Man or whatever. Same with DC. There's a Star Wars movie coming out. I think there's a Starfighter thing coming out.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. I think that's going to be new characters set in the universe, but not characters that we've heard of before. That's going to be a test for them as well. Can you set something in the universe on the big screen, but not Kirk and Spock or Picard and Riker? I don't know. I hope so. Because if you do that successfully, then you've created a whole, starting point for more movies and TV spinoffs and merchandise, everything.
Which could be head up by them.
Right, exactly.
When Kurtzman's contract runs out eventually, then they can build this universe across all platforms. That could be what they mean as well.
Exactly.
So they're going to do something new
They very much need fresh blood audience-wise, which is what Academy is all about too, right? Because that is it's all old folks watching. Sorry, everybody who's listening and watches, but I include myself in that. And so if they want a younger audience, if they want to expand the audience, they have to go younger. And so if they want to relaunch Star Trek, then they're going to have to do it. I mean, they have to do it clean, right? If they want to do it. And then they can loosen it up if they're successful and be like, oh, and look, here's what 7 of 9 was doing or something like that.
Yeah. What makes Star Trek Star Trek? It's space, there's a ship, it's optimistic.
That should be our next panel in Vegas. What makes Star Trek Star Trek?
But how is it different than Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy? There's going to have to be recognizable elements. There's going to be a ship. It's going to have nacelles.
There's going to be phasers and transporters.
You need that stuff because they're shortcuts you need to say things like warp and beam me up and all that kind of stuff just to get people, no matter who you are. I was just watching this morning the, Channel 5 news team covering the Rose Parade here. And as soon as the Star Trek float comes by, someone says, beam me up. He doesn't know why he's saying it. It's just kind of a visceral reaction to seeing George Takei, and then he started getting everything wrong, about who Rebecca Romijn was and the new guy, but he knew beam me up because everyone knows that, right. And so I think the new movie is going to be full of that kind of stuff, and let's just hope it's not. I mean, the question, some people are wondering, if you look at the track record for these guys, they've done a lot of comedies. And so are they going to turn Star Trek into something campy and, comedy like?
I know. And I don't think that's the tone of their humor either. Campy, I just watched Dungeons and Dragons for the first time. And I'd already seen the Spider-Man movie, and I watched Game Night on your recommendation, Tony. And it's it's smart dialogue, and it's genuinely funny, and there's actual heart in all of it. So there's that. Yeah. Yeah,
they're not. If you look at the 2009 Star Trek movie, a lot of the humor there was quite broad. So that isn't their kind of stuff, for sure.
And honestly, they're not bro-y. For me, the movies are so overwhelmingly male all the time. And it's always men writing and directing that it's been frustrating. But I feel like when I watched these movies, I was like, well, the women in these movies have strong, important roles. They're not just we better throw a woman in there because we don't have one. Yeah. I would like to see women in more creative positions in Star Trek, though, because it's driving me nuts.
Behind the scenes?
Yes, behind the scenes.
Yes.
Enough is enough. Like, there's been, I think, of all the announcements we've had of movies, there was briefly a woman scheduled to direct and briefly a woman scheduled to write. And that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. S.J. Clarkson was going to direct Star Trek IV, the sequel to Beyond, and they were going into pre-production. That was the first time they got shut down right before pre-production. It happened a few times after that. But yeah, that was exciting that there was going to be a woman director.
And Kalinda somebody.
Vasquez, yeah.
Yes, was going to write something, and then that went away too. So I'm like, I just, the straight male sensibility has had so much time. It would be nice for someone else to get a crack at it. But maybe if these guys are overseeing it, ultimately they're not going to do everything themselves. They'll hire people. We'll see what happens.
And I don't want to speculate as to why, but it seems like when there's more female involvement behind the scenes in Trek, queer representation gets better too. So,
yep.
All for it.
Yep.
Is there anything else in, before we talk about our like favorite little things, big stories from 2025? I mean, something that struck me was it's kind of related to the Skydance thing is the pitches coming out of the woodwork. That was kind of not a surprise, but like, especially how blatant some people, I couldn't believe Akiva on stage in San Diego was like, write Skydance. Like he was lobbying on stage to try to get fans to back his proposal. And obviously Mike Sussman is out there doing everything he can to get Star Trek United going.
Yep.
I think Terry wants people to keep going with Legacy, but he doesn't want to be seen as that guy.
And he's busy. He's very busy.
Oh yeah, he doesn't need it. He just, he loves Star Trek like we do. So he would love to work for Star Trek again. So that was that was a big thing for me. But any other, before we get to should we just get to our favorite things, or does anyone else have a 2025 thing they want to talk about?
What about Sulu and McCoy in Strange New Worlds? Is that a big story? That they announced it a year and so far in advance?
So weird.
So I know everyone is speculating, like, why are they announcing it now?
Was there like a leak on the cusp and they were trying to get ahead of the leak?
Beyond like 2 seconds.
It's possible. I mean, yeah, I knew about it before it got out there, so it was probably out there. It could just, sometimes you just can't stop people's agents, and they were hired to, I think the biggest surprise was that they're only in the finale. I thought that they were going to go at least one of the two of them in the season 4 finale, and then do like they did with Scotty, and that person would be throughout season 5. So Sulu or McCoy as, in all 6 episodes.
Just slowly pushing the other ones out of their seats and off camera, just hoisting them up and moving them out of the way as they step in. I mean, that's an issue for that cast who's been around for a while, too.
Have we talked about this on the pod? Should we? We probably, I don't know if we've said their names. I don't think we did because this came out after. So the news is Thomas Jane, and you probably know him from The Expanse or the Punisher movie. He's been around for quite a while. Is playing Dr. McCoy, and he's in his, like a lot of people say, like this guy's in his 50s, which seems a little old to be playing a somewhat younger McCoy. But I think the only reason they hired a guy in his 50s is really because of Kirk.
Oh, because of Paul Wesley.
Yeah, Paul Wesley's too old to be playing Kirk, and you want McCoy to seem a little older, so you're forced to go even older with your McCoy. I think that's why they hired this guy.
I think I looked it up, and he's 10 years older than DeForest Kelley was when he was playing the role.
And he also, like, DeForest Kelley looked older at his age, and this guy looked younger than his age, so that also works out. But yeah, it's obviously the Paul Wesley thing.
Yeah.
And they hired a Japanese stage actor to play Sulu, a guy named Kai Murakami. I don't think anyone's ever heard of him before, but I'm sure he's fantastic. He's with the Royal Shakespeare Company and others, so I'm sure he'll be fine. But my bet is Sulu does not have a big part to play. He's going to show up. He's going to be wearing the blue shirt, maybe. right? Because he's in
I mean, is he going to be in botany? What's he going to be doing?
But Thomas Jane is a serious actor. They hired him because they're thinking of year one. I really don't think year one's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But my bet is it won't. But they're obviously thinking ahead, and that's why they hired this guy.
I think the only way it would happen is if, by some miracle, next season of Strange New Worlds just does extraordinarily well. Significantly surpassing anything that it's done before. Yeah. Because it's really the same, as we've talked about on this podcast, it's the same show. Year one is Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, you get a little buzz from it being Kirk and Spock and, kind of a reboot. But yeah, it's the same show. I mean, season 4, they say it's great. They say it's the best. Maybe they could get some buzz if they overlap it with the 60th anniversary. So if they launch it in the summer and it comes out, and maybe there is, maybe Shatner's in it. I'm just pulling that out of my butt, but like they do some kind of stunty thing for September 2026. And maybe that gets them some buzz. I mean, they got on some top 10 lists for this year for season 3, which is surprising.
Yeah, but it didn't make waves in the way that you would need to.
Yeah, season 2 got a lot of good buzz. It got nominations. It got good ratings. Season 3, no. So they need to. But my point is, critics are at least Strange New Worlds curious. So they have an opportunity to get back with audiences and fans. I don't think people have given up on the show necessarily.
Agree.
Plus, maybe Academy will make waves and then get new viewers.
Yeah, I mean, besides obviously the young cast intended to get new viewers, they have Oscar winners in that show and really popular people because they know that they can get them on all the they can get mainstream press, which is always, they're trying to break out of their Trek only press and sci-fi press and get mainstream. So you have Paul Giamatti, you have Holly Hunter, you have people that will help you with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of our favorite things. And since we're already talking about Strange New Worlds, let's all pick our favorite episode of Strange New Worlds season 3. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can go because mine's in the article. So no surprise. So then everyone else still gets to have a surprise. The biggest surprise was that I actually liked an episode with a fucking Gorn in it, which is shocking.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it myself.
Terrarium is the episode I'm talking about. And as the main thing for me, I stopped the story itself, and I would say the whole middle part, the end I hated, and trying to tie back into things and, it's Lake Arena, whatever. I don't care about any of that. If I look at the episode solely on its own, I thought Melissa Navia was amazing. I thought it was a great story. I thought she played her character as sort of very grounded and very unhinged at the same time. She knows what she's supposed to do, but she's also in this situation that she never envisioned having to deal with, things she did not ever think she'd have to deal with, and she's by herself. And I found it emotionally moving too. I thought it was a great story, and it made me wish that it wasn't a Gorn and that we'd never known anything about the Gorn, because it could have been something else. I mean, I understand she had a history with being at war with them, and that was important. But for me, that also didn't have to be Gorned up. So I like that Tony named the Gorn Liz, and I will always call her Liz also. But I thought it was great writing, great acting, great directing. Everything came together. Chop off the end, and we've got a great episode.
I mean, I liked it. I liked that there were some moral questions and that it leaves you with questions. It doesn't tie everything up nice. The whole thing with the Metrons and rewriting canon, I could have lived without, but whatever. They felt that they had painted themselves into a corner and they needed to do a little bullshit with canon and whatever. But no, I thought it was great. It wasn't my favorite. Would be episode 5, Through the Lens of Time, just because it was the most Star Trek of all the episodes of the year. I felt, they go to a planet, this kooky alien, and weird
Some
mystery.
Weird shit happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it all tied in, later. That whole episode was essentially a prequel to the finale, but it stands on, but it, that wasn't the whole point of it. It stands on its own. I like the guy they had playing Corby. I thought he was a great addition. So that was my favorite of the year.
I was a fan of both of those, particularly Terrarium, because Enemy Mine is one of my favorite all-time science fiction films, and it's basically just Enemy Mine, but Star Trek. So for that, I loved it. But I was a big fan of Wedding Bell Blues, only because I enjoy an episode that I am entertained by and can watch over and over again and not feel like I've lost anything by watching it over again. It's very rewatchable. It's silly. It's kind of fun. There are aspects of it that annoy the hell out of me, but it's still just it's popcorn Star Trek, and I'm okay with that from time to time.
There should always be some popcorn Star Trek.
I agree.
Yeah, and rewatchability that's part of the point of Strange New Worlds. Is it's supposed to be episodic, and therefore episodes should stand on their own and be rewatchable. Joe and Anne Marie, do you have favorites from season 3?
I'm with Laurie on Terrarium for all the reasons that she said. For me, this season, just there weren't a lot of bright spots.
Agreed.
To be completely honest. And I definitely agree with you on the Gorn. But I definitely, that was one, talk about rewatchability. I would watch that one again.
Yeah.
As well. Great performances, a great story, the special effects, just everything about it was, it kept me engaged too. That's another thing where I sometimes I tend to drift off when I'm watching Strange New Worlds a little bit for whatever reason. But this one just kept me engaged because I was wondering, like, well, where's this going to end? Which we talked about the ending, but not great.
Well, there's the ending and then the other ending and then the other ending. So
right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was definitely by far my favorite. So I'm glad that you put that in the article.
Oh. I really loved Wedding Bell Blues. It's so rewatchable. It had Star Trek romance and fashion, which are like two of my favorite things about Star Trek. But, like the other thing that's amazing is like everybody kind of is like saying how season 3 isn't the best. But one of my favorite things is like, as we're all mentioning other episodes, I'm like, wow, I actually did love that one. I love that one. Like, so, which I feel like is a quality of a good Star Trek season. So, or a bad one that I still love. So it's nice to have that.
That's what's great about it. Yeah.
It's a solid episode. I mean, I've always loved Rhys Darby, and yes. I think he was perfect casting as Trelane. We didn't need the little Q bit at the end, but the rest of it I thought was great. It was the best of the kooky Spock episodes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love it. And yeah, at that end, maybe we just need to shave the last minute off of every episode of the season. Every time they try and do some little kind of thing, you just go yoink and take it out. And then you show Akiva like you pretend that it aired, but you actually just remove it from the show.
I would love to talk to somebody who truly does not know Star Trek at all who's watching these, because I know like when Sirach does the reviews for 7th Rule, some of these episodes I have to like brief him, or if he's seen the episode, reviewing it with Walter, but just to be like, this is what a Metron is, this is what a Trillian is, like, because otherwise are you watching it and just being like, what? Like, it's kind of like what does this mean?
A good friend of mine I was just talking to, and she knows, she's a big Star Wars fan, and she knows Star Trek like probably the same way that people watching the Rose Bowl parade. Like, she has a good sense of it, but just those big things. And she loves Strange New Worlds. She's like, I've had the roughest she's had a horrible, horrible year. And so she has found refuge in Strange New Worlds, and she loves that it's wacky and different. And because she doesn't have any of those canon connections, none of that, she doesn't care. Like, it's just, oh, that's a fun character. Not, oh, it explains something from years ago. And so because she's able to completely separate it all, she just fully enjoys it. And she knew Paul Wesley from the Vampire Diaries or whatever. So she's like, oh, and I love him, because I said, oh, he's not working for me at all. She's like, no, he's great. So she's having a great time, and she doesn't get any of the connections.
I love that. That's so good to hear.
That is great, because I think one of the things that if I may, bugs me about the show is when they do add in those little things of like those member berries, right? The cue thing at the end where you're just like, oh, why did you have to do that? Whereas somebody who doesn't understand, it doesn't know the canon, they
don't even know whose voice that is.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, no big deal.
She's not like, oh, it's Q. She's like, oh, it's a voice of that guy's dad, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't affect you. And so that's, again, like why I wish they would do less of that stuff anyway, because it's, as I've always said about the show, like they need to trust themselves and stop leaning on all this other stuff. Like that episode with the Gorn was great, regardless of any of the stuff they've done with canon and the Gorn and anything, and Metrons and any of it.
Yeah, leaving those little bits in is a great strategy for a network show. But because this is like most of the people paying to see this are Star Trek fans. So we're running into the resistance of like, why did they put that in there? Because the casual fan appreciates it, but the casual fan numbers are probably pretty small on a streamer you have to pay to watch the show. So it's like, why is that in there if most of us are nitpickers? Because we are. We pick because we love. But the casual fan is not going to do that. And yet it's not as accessible to the casual fan. It's a weird conundrum.
I've seen this both with, the people working on some of the Abrams movies and the modern Star Trek, is they often misunderstand fandom when they are trying to do an Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes they're like, oh, the fans are going to love this. And, a lot of times like we didn't need that. And no. So, but I want to talk about something that we haven't brought up. So there was only one show last year. Most recent years, we've had 2 Star Trek TV shows or more to talk about. There's one year we had 5 seasons. It's insane. But there was another official Star Trek production that was one of our biggest surprises of the year. And that was Star Trek Con. Like,
I thought you were going to say Scouts.
That's coming next. So that is technically an official Star Trek production. But Con was such a surprise, and we've really talked it up on this podcast. But I'm just curious, like, is everyone in agreement that has everyone listened to it here?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought it was phenomenal. Week to week, I didn't miss an episode. I was engaged. The production was great. The actors were fantastic. The story was interesting. Yeah, it was just, and bringing back Sulu and Tuvok, you can't go wrong there.
Well, it started somewhat pointless, but then came very important.
Totally.
I thought in the first episode, like my favorite episode of the year was the second episode when you realize, oh, there's a reason why they're there, and everything kind of started coming together. I think for our website, we picked episode 6, but it's kind of hard to pick a favorite episode because it's all just one story.
Yeah.
I picked episode 7, if I had to pick, which was I Am Marla. Because it's like the Alborians ask Marla to help because Ivan has been put in this state because he attacked one of the aliens. And there's all this fun, like playful talk about their daughter's name between Khan and Marla. And that's the one, it is the one where she, spoiler alert, dies. Which I cried and I was so emotionally moved. The only nitpick I have on that is pregnant women are told, like, don't go in hot tubs. Like, you're not supposed to ever go in a hot tub when you're pregnant. But anyway, it was such a moving episode. And the thing I loved so much about the series is that I feel like I watched it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could picture Ivan. I could picture these characters. And that was the success of this, is that they developed these other characters, some of which we'd maybe have heard of in the movie or the TV episode. But a lot of them, especially Ivan, were new characters. Yeah, they were really well realized.
Yeah, we covered every episode on the Salon, and our coverage concluded with an interview with David Mack and Kirsten Beyer that was such a fun conversation. Just delightful people that brought an amazing Trek story to all of us. And it makes me want more audio drama. It really does.
Yes.
I know it's not the very first. There was the Seven and Rafi story that came out a while back. But like this sort of scripted drama over a series of weeks, and everything from the way that it was done, the actors that were brought in, the writing, the release schedule, all of it, just makes me want more. I just want more of them.
Yeah, I agree completely. And this was different. Like the other one, the Rafi and Seven one, just wasn't as produced. It wasn't as big of a production. But this was, I mean, the casting was brilliant. Also, they made great choices. But yeah, I'm not an audio drama person, and I was hooked. And I was like, now I want more. So, and I even put out a call for them, but everyone just recommended sci-fi. And I'm like, no, I want like I don't need a sci-fi story. I need really good characters. And they just kept saying, how about murder?
Yeah, I wish this would like lead to more Star Trek audio dramas, because really that's just like we could bring back all these characters. But I mean, I've been watching the numbers on the podcast and also on the amount of reviews, and then the podcast, the YouTube numbers, and it's just like embarrassingly low for how great it was. And I just wonder like if they had advertised it more, and I would love to know if they actually made any money on it.
Yeah, that's a good question, because they had sponsors and advertising.
I didn't see any ads for it outside of, like, I didn't see anything mainstream about it. They had, I mean, Naveen Andrews, people know who he is from Lost and other things, and I didn't see them really using that for anything.
I mean, they did a publicity push at the beginning. Obviously we did interviews, but we didn't see it break through to the mainstream.
And it's like 17,000 views on YouTube. And then on the iTunes, it'll be like a couple hundred 5-star reviews, and that's it. And I just wish we could have seen a lot more, because Star Trek is such a brand.
Yeah.
So good. And I want way more audio dramas. So.
And I love the way this really filled in a question. Like when years ago, when Nicholas Meyer first announced, they said, oh, they're doing this thing about his time on the planet. I was like, who the hell cares about that? Like I was it was a stupid opinion of mine, because as I listened to it, I was like, I want to know everything that happened on the planet, and I want it. And it filled in all these gaps, and it made total sense. And there's so many stories in Star Trek, I think, that fall in those little gaps. Mm-hmm. Where you can tell a great story and you don't have to ruin anything, and you don't have to even really know a whole bunch. Like you could have gone into that, I think, knowing almost nothing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So the other Star Trek fiction out there, kind of official fiction, would be books and comics for the year. I don't know how many people here have opinions of those. I actually consume them. Well, okay, there was Scouts, but let's just, that's not,
I call them sprouts.
I wish they promoted that more. Hopefully they're getting to kids. It is what it is. And we did pick one episode, the one with the spaceship in it, but it's our best of the year.
Not the meatball?
Not the one with the meatball. I don't know what asteroid it was. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But I was disappointed to see how few Star Trek books there were this year. We picked the Greg Cox book that is set in the movie era, which was pretty good. A lot of Chekhov in that. The surprise for me this year, and Joe could probably talk about this as well, is that just so many comic books came out this year, like an insane amount of comic books. There's ongoing series wrapping up, new ongoing series. My favorite, like you picked the opposite of what I would have picked. So my favorite episodes were the Lower Decks comics where they go back in time. It was an homage to Star Trek 4. It was hilarious. It was very spot on, like the show. And I think the best series is the new resurrected Captain Kirk thing, which I was very wary of. It's Captain Kirk in the Discovery era, or the somewhat pre-Discovery, because 31st century, but it's working for me. But the red shirts thing is fun. I mean, they're experimenting. I didn't like the Voyager one as much as I wanted to, because it was about Voyager coming home, but then they have this like weird side adventure before they actually get to come home. I'm like, I'm like, oh, I thought we were going to see what happened on Earth and all this stuff, but it's all in fluidic space, it's like, okay, but they're doing stuff. IDW is doing stuff. That's what I like.
That's what's fascinating to me about this whole thing, is that they're taking these big swings and they're doing things that you would never even think would even be possible. I mean, even like what you mentioned before, the series that we're wrapping up, the Star Trek ongoing with bringing back Sisko. So they already brought back Sisko. Spoiler alert. And then the Defiant series.
Is he okay?
He's okay. And then the Defiant,
I'm worried, that's all.
The Defiant series was like the Avengers in space, where they brought like Spock and Worf and Ro and B'Elanna Torres were all a team together. It was just wild.
Maybe crazy. Almost a little Suicide Squad-y, though. The way the tone of that was more,
That's a better way of describing it, absolutely. But then, just being able to do that, and then also bringing back Kirk. Not only bringing back Kirk, but again bringing him back at the burn.
Yeah.
When the burn happens, and that's why I picked the individual issue of Last Starship. I thought was the best of the year because of the way that they interpreted the burn, what was happening at the time that the burn was happening. Right before the burn happened. The aftermath of that, where the Starfleet Federation leadership is all gathered together and like, what do we do now? There's 1 trillion people dead across the whole galaxy. Like, what happens? And I guess the answer is bring back James T. Kirk. is the only answer.
It's always the solution.
Which again, it seems bonkers, but it's like, to Tony's point is that it worked. It worked in the issue for me. I can't really explain how or why, but it did.
Yeah. I'm curious because the new Academy show is set post burn. Like the word, the burn is going to be heard a lot in this show. It's kind of like setting a show in 2002 after 9/11. It's this big thing happened and we're still dealing with it. And so I'm curious I bet not, but there are people who are supposed to be keeping an eye on this, and it'll be curious to see if there's any crossover there with how they're treating because we never saw the burn on Discovery. We just kept on hearing about it and seeing the aftermath. This is set like when it happened, and it's like this.
See it.
Yeah, this like overly optimistic, kind of naive Federation is so advanced in 31st century. They just were not prepared for this kind of catastrophe at all. So that'll be interesting to see. Any other book or comic readers here besides Joe and I?
Sorry.
I've been following like the Lower Decks ones because I've become such a massive fan of Vernon Smith from the conventions. And so I'm just like so pleasantly surprised. I love the when you're looking in the backgrounds of the Lower Decks comic books and seeing the Easter eggs. It's actually opened my eyes to the world of comics, and now I'm checking out more of them. It's great to see how vibrant it is.
They are so fun and they're so true to the show.
Yes.
I love them so much. Breaking the fourth wall, the Easter eggs. It's callbacks to other shows, callbacks to that show. It's just it's just wild and crazy, and the frenetic pace of it too. All the dialogue. It's as if you're watching the show to me.
And bear in mind, some people like comic books at the house. I don't want to go. Every comic book series from every publisher gets released as just books. So they take every 4 or 5 issues, which are usually in these arcs. The Lower Decks ones, they do 2 episode arcs, and they get collected into these little collections, usually called volumes. So you could buy Lower Decks Volume 1 on Amazon, and it's a graphic novel at that point, and that's an easier entry point, I think, than trying to go get individual issues. And they're all available digitally as well on Amazon, every issue. So you could just read them on your iPad or whatever. I don't know. Should we talk about merchandise stuff? Star Trek stuff? We've already talked licensing. And did anyone buy anything this year? Any favorite Star Trek thingy you got as a gift or bought or whatever?
I received a pretty awesome gift from my co-host Stan, who sent me the Star Trek Wines Advent calendar.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Which was, yes. So I was pretty lit for most of December. It was great. Yeah, I don't know what it says about my personality that a friend I've only had for a couple of years is like, lots of wine for every day is exactly what I should send him.
Was it a bottle or little bottles?
They were. It was a very heavy pour, but it was it was a little bottle every day of it was a glass and a half. And each one. Sometimes the character on the bottle made sense with the type of wine. Sometimes they were just reaching for images and slapping them on a bottle. But I did enjoy the Khan Noonien Singh spicy rosé. It was delightful. But amazing. that was just wonderful. And before I forget to mention, I did buy one item from him at STLV this year, Tony Kim from Hero Within. So anything that anybody's ever bought from Hero Within is, it's fantastic merchandise. And I know that license is no longer something that Hero Within has. But I know Tony Kim personally. He's a wonderful human being, and whatever he does next is going to be awesome. So I just want to give Hero Within another shout out, because I can't compliment them and him enough. So.
I mean, the splashy stuff this year, Lego was fantastic. We're going to have a review of that coming up soon. I mean, one of my favorite things this year, Hallmark has been doing Star Trek stuff for a long time. So maybe for them, they're kind of running out of things to do, but they did this weird ornament this year, which was a recreation of a video game console from the 80s with light and sound. So it's this game, Star Trek Strategic Operations. So if you're old enough, you may remember this console thing. And when you look inside, it's got the screen, and it's just it's delightful that they would make something like this. So that for me was a favorite. I think on the site we had the Moopsy Funko, which was an easy choice for a product of the year, just because.
And a Lego set, obviously.
Yeah, but that was the Moopsy was late to the party. There's a Moopsy plush that came out last year, I think. But again, still late to the party, but it's nice to see that happening. Any other merch items?
You know what I got from the official Star Trek store? They have these like jogger sweatpants, and it says Star Trek like in TOS font down the side. And then down the other pant leg side, it's like a couple ships. And they are so cool. And every time I wear them out, I get like a million compliments. And they were like $35 on the official Star Trek site. So highly recommend, and very true to size.
Oh, excellent.
And much better than the Starship is landing.
We all have that shirt. I wear a lot of Star Trek stuff out there, but usually, that's when my kids back away and pretend they're not with me and whatever we're doing. But I was at the grocery store and I had my Star Trek Day hat on, and this woman was like, "I really like your hat." And I was like, "You just spoke volumes. What you just," it was so lovely to hear, instead of the usual, looking with the darting of the eyes and the backing away.
Any other merch?
Sure. For merch, the one thing I'll say about Hallmark is that I feel like they are always trying to come out with really fun, creative ornaments that are based in a deep knowledge and understanding of Star Trek, but also the humor of it. All their stuff, it's whether you're picking up something old from years ago or you're getting something new, there's just a fun twist on it. And I wish that more of the merchandisers had that same tone and aesthetic.
Yeah, they had a bunch of stuff this year. I think they had some Lower Deck stuff this year. It's great stuff. I'm looking forward to their 2026 stuff. So just a note on timing. We're already 1 hour and 8 in. Yeah, the question is, how deep do we want to go into the rest of the 2025 and 2026 stuff? So, I guess that's a question for the group. Do people have things on their lists you brought to this podcast that you want to talk about?
So we should talk about live events and experiences, because there was some good stuff. I feel like I was running around a lot this year, going to Star Trek events and doing things more than usual. But I think the biggest one was when I was not at, which is FanFest.
Yes. So who here? So I went with Joe, but Trev, you went as well?
I did. My husband and I went and had an amazing time. He's a Star Trek fan by marriage, but he still loved the experience. And for me, it sort of reminded me, speaking of experience, of the Star Trek experience from Vegas. Like being on that bridge was just it reminded me of the one time I got to go to the Star Trek experience. But FanFest did it and then some. The story was great. The sets, being able to walk onto that set was fantastic. And just the themed food and drink and like all of the other aspects of the event were awesome. And you can't beat Southern California weather. So it was a wonderful experience. Had a great time.
Any special memories for you, Joe, from FanFest?
Well, obviously being with you and going to experience it with you. Yes. No. Yeah. I mean, I echo everything that Trev said. It was just being able to be on that bridge and spending time on that bridge on the Enterprise D bridge from Picard season 3 specifically. Spending any kind of time on there was pretty magical for me. I didn't get to go to Vegas, so I never really been on that bridge before. But I thought that they did a great job. In my previous experience, I worked on a lot of experiential things, Comic-Con events and things like that. So I always appreciate some of the work that goes into things like this. And I think that they did a really good job. The actors, the story, they did a pretty deep dive. There were a few things that they got wrong, which
right,
if you remember. But for the most part, it was very well done. I think the only criticism I have really is that it was a little too short. I wanted it to be longer.
No, I agree. Although, in a way, the bridge was a given, but I was impressed with everything else they built, because they built a shuttle bay, they built an engineering section, they built a little sick bay, they built a kind of enlarged turbo lift, but then they explained why it was enlarged, because it was now part of the museum. So right. No, I thought it was all very well done. The themes were very Star Trek, so it just got me wishing for an actual genuine Star Trek attraction.
Yes,
somewhere,
a permanent, yeah,
a permanent one, because it was only up for a month, and that was the unfortunate thing.
Do we know what happened to the set after that?
Well, it's still in storage somewhere. You know, they could do it again. I'd be worried about wear and tear if they just start touring it around the country. I don't think it's going to be part of FanFest this year. I think they've already announced all the franchises for this year, and there's been no mention of Star Trek, and there's no word on if they're going to do FanFest in Orlando as well. But hopefully it comes back. Yeah.
Well, conventions were really fun this year because there was the big Vegas one is always fun. And there were there was regional. I think we both went to some regional ones. Tony, you and I did New Jersey. You did Chicago. I also went to Trek Long Island, which is much, much smaller, which is a totally different vibe. But I thought it was fun. I mean, the thing about Vegas is that they've added so much, the Treksperts have added so much planning and programming that my big problem is missing stuff I want to see on either stage. And then the third stage. Like there were times that there were 3 things going on at once that I wanted to go to, and I was in one of them, so that made my, and I didn't even get to choose because I was like, well, I guess I got to show up. So that to me was like a really big highlight. I mean, I wrote about the Voyager panel at Creation because it was just bonkers and crazy and rowdy and raucous and fun. But Creation is, I mean, yes, we have Anne-Marie here from Creation. And I'm not just kissing your ass, baby, but I think that they've really stepped up the offerings and what there is and the fan experiences and the variety of stuff that we're getting.
Anne-Marie, you have any, hopefully there'll be more regional stuff.
Well, I can't comment on anything at all. But we're very aware that it's the 60th anniversary year and hoping to make sure that's an incredibly special experience. So,
well, obviously Vegas is, that's already been set.
Oh my gosh, we're setting all these records for hotel rooms booked and gold sold out immediately. So I think it's going to be a really crazy year in an amazing way. Plus, we have Academy coming out with this whole new cast. So then there's all the potentials of that. And it hasn't even started airing yet.
Yeah, if we don't see Paul Giamatti on stage in Vegas, I am going to be upset. So
I think he's going to be upset if he doesn't get to go.
Don't bring him any effing wine.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Holly Hunter to show up, but I'd be surprised if you guys don't book Paul Giamatti unless he's like shooting a movie in New Zealand or something. Because
it's always hard to say with people who are so popular shooting schedules, but we'll see. There's some very exciting things in the works, obviously, with the 60th anniversary year, and also some of the exciting things with these new licensees sets up some more potential for bigger and better. Not better, but bigger things, sort of like how 2016 had the 50th anniversary, Mac makeup. You never know who Star Trek's going to get a license with and what that means for conventions.
Now, the irony is that 2 years ago, Creation, they're no longer officially licensed, which is why it's called Trek to Vegas instead of the official Star Trek convention. But it has had very little effect, except that you don't use Star Trek imagery, but it doesn't seem to have impacted. But that Reed Pop briefly had the license, and then dropped it. So I'm curious if anyone picks up the Star Trek convention. Now there is the boat, right? Star Trek The Cruise, which sold out very early for this year. They're also doing, they've also got Shatner, and but they don't have Takei. I guess they don't want to be on the same boat together at the same time. But you've got Shatner and Takei and Koenig all in Vegas, likely not on stage at the same time, but they'll be appearing at the same convention.
I'm just going to push them until they're all together on stage. We'll each pick one of them and just shove them until they get in there. Yeah.
They're all in the elevator.
Still, it's exciting to see 60th celebrated, but it'd be interesting to see an official Star Trek convention again with someone.
Yeah, the whole thing is so crazy too, because in the irony of it all, and this was before I was working for Creation, is the strike year, we were able to still have a Star Trek convention because there was no license, and so actors could come and not talk about Star Trek. Things like that in some ways have saved the convention. So I know it's just, you never know. That's the fun thing about conventions also, you never know what's going to come next. But, there were a couple things where it was really signifying how mainstream Star Trek is and Star Trek conventions. And in a lot of ways, you don't really think that. And I certainly, as 10 years ago, never thought I'd be someone going to Star Trek conventions. And then I went and was this is the greatest thing in my entire life. What was I doing the rest of my life? But so
ditto,
Nick
baby.
Carter, Nick Carter from Backstreet Boys' agent called us during STT and was hey, Backstreet Boys is in town doing the Sphere, and Nick Carter really wants to come meet William Shatner and see the Star Trek convention. So they shuttled him over on Sunday, and he went and looked around and had a moment with William Shatner. And just when we break that mainstream wall in that degree, it's really, it sort of snaps you into the reality that Star Trek is a fandom that's been around for decades, and people act like it's not mainstream, but it actually is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Let's talk a little bit about 2026, the year we're actually in.
Wait, but right before we go to 2026, we just have to briefly touch on the biggest misstep of 2025. We just have to say it.
We haven't brought it up.
Yeah.
I was thinking of when we were doing our best of 2025, I was going to add a category called best streaming movie, and then pick a really good streaming movie from Netflix or Apple that wasn't Star Trek, but just one that I thought was a solid streaming movie. So
even if it's not solid.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't even said it. I haven't said the word. What are we talking about?
Section 31, baby. So that was a disaster that we all saw coming. So many miles away from when they announced it, and we were everybody's I don't know about that. And then the more we heard, and then it was a show, and then it was this and that, and then it finally comes out with this big splash and lots of attention.
At Jazz at Lincoln Center premiere.
Yes, red carpet, the whole thing at Lincoln Center, I finally got to meet Michelle Yeoh, like all this stuff. And all these actors who were so enthusiastic and so excited about finally being in Star Trek. And they're at Comic-Con and this whole thing. And then the movie's just like terrible. Just awful.
Okay, I've got a good spin on section. Well, first, there was some good stuff in it. The makeup just got a nomination this week.
Sure.
Well, no, it's very good. But I hope Goldstein and Daly sit down and study this, because it was an attempt to do Guardians of the Galaxy and Star Trek. There was a vibe they were going for that they thought would attract a new audience, and they made some big mistakes. And I hope the new guys look at this and say, okay, that doesn't work. These two flavors don't go well together. It's a learning experience, hopefully, for everyone.
Well, also to come up with a proper story. Like, the flavors would have been fine with me. Like, the tone would have been okay. But it just didn't. The story was not interesting. And because we know it had been a series, so they took all this stuff and then condensed it. So characters were killed off really quickly before we had a chance to even care about who they were. Right? You're like, what? And then, and so any kind of backstory that was actually interesting had to be cut. And then there was just all this action. So and it wasn't about anything.
Well, Balenciaga, but it was a really great Balenciaga ad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looked good.
It looked good. No, the design of it was great. Like, sure, makeup does deserve a nomination and costumes and all that stuff, but the actual thing itself, there was like, what was the story of it? I don't know. They had to get a thing from somebody. Like, that's kind of my memory of the storyline.
Or was it God's End, which was a joke in the movie,
right?
Yeah.
What do we call it?
Blocked from my memory.
I'll be controversial,
but
brave.
It even worked? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I walked away kind of okay, I'm going to digest this. And I did. Which is not, the feeling you necessarily want fans.
Yeah, did it give you indigestion?
Maybe. But what's funny is that I just rewatched it. My mom was here for a couple weeks for the holidays, and
you're
just
mad
watched
at her, so you put it on?
No, it was a piece of Star Trek she hadn't seen, so we watched it, and it ended, and her first comment was, "Well, that was different," which is not. None of you have ever met my mother, but I assure you that's not mom speak. Like that was her honest opinion. That was different, and we talked about it. But watching it again, this is just probably my second true rewatch of it. I put it on a couple times in the past, but my issue with it was exactly what you were just describing, Laurie, which was you can feel the condensing of it. You can feel the 10 episodes squished into 90 minutes. And had they just thrown that all away and written a new script, that probably would have been a less upsetting version of Star Trek. But instead, I think if you took any Star Trek and smushed it, if you took 10 episodes and condensed them into 90 minutes, we'd all have issues with the story, with the characters. It would thud rather quickly, as this clearly did in popular fandom. But I didn't hate it. It doesn't mean I loved it. It doesn't mean it's not my. It is my favorite streaming movie. But it happened, and it was different.
It happened.
This was so bad for the cast. I wanted to know them all.
Agreed.
I liked the idea that we would be seeing maybe periodic Star Trek streaming movies, but apparently Skydance isn't interested in any streaming movies for Paramount Plus, not just Star Trek. Just in general, they're not pro streaming movie, even though like Apple and others are really into that.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd do more too, and I was disappointed that this marked the end of it. Because there is great potential. And honestly, like in terms of the condensing, when we interviewed those actors and some of them told us their backstories and what had originally been written for their characters, I was like, that sounds great. That sounds really interesting. So none of it got in there, but that's cool. And that's, part of their enthusiasm was they had that whole backstory that just never made it in there.
Do you think if we would have got 8 more hours of this, that it would have been better?
I think if they'd found the story and the heart it would have been better than it was because it had no story and no heart.
Yeah, you needed to care about these characters more.
Yeah.
Justice for Mel.
Right. Like,
Yes.
it's like, oh, they killed off the bald chick. Okay.
In 5 seconds, boom, done.
Yeah. I didn't care about her enough to really care, so.
But now I don't think these are the toughest people ever anymore.
Right. So it's 2026. So I've already predicted that they're going to go into pre-production this year on the movie. I predict that season 4 of Strange New Worlds is going to be good. I'm just putting that out there. I think that they've learned lessons. I think it will be better than season 3. I think they got high on their own supply. They had issues with the strikes. I think season 3 was a misstep. I think they're going to get back on track, and season 4 is going to be better. Anyone else have any predictions for the year?
I have questions because I'm wondering in terms of these shows airing. So right now we know Starfleet Academy is premiering this month. Very
January
soon.
15th, 2-episode premiere.
There you go. I know you'd jump in. Obviously we're going to get season 4 of Strange New World. So the question is, season 2 of Starfleet Academy and the 6-episode season 5 of Strange New Worlds, are we going to see those this year? Will they try? Will the goal be to stretch it out or to just burn it off? Is the question. And because it is the 60th anniversary, there are reasons to put more of it in there. And there are reasons, like with Starfleet Academy, there's a reason if it's a hit to put more of it up, and there's a reason if it isn't to put more of it up. So I don't know.
Well, there's also the simple logistics of they have 4 seasons in post-production. Well, I mean, they're done with Academy now at this point, but they have 3 seasons of post-production to do. Seasons 4 and 5 of Strange New Worlds and season 2 of Academy. There's just no way they could get them all out, even if they did want to burn them all off. I don't think. It takes a while to do post-production on these shows.
Right. I assume they've started, though.
Oh, no, they start post-production as
soon
as
they're
they
still
finish.
in production. Yeah.
Yeah, they're editing but season 4 wrapped in July. Season 5 just wrapped for Strange New Worlds. Season 2 is wrapping soon for Academy. So, yeah, they might try to sneak one in. My bet is Academy runs through March. I think they're going to do July through September, maybe earlier for Strange New Worlds. Brian has said, do they want to have Star Trek Day not have a Star Trek show? So either season 4, they try to wrap that into Star Trek Day, or they try to get something else out by Star Trek Day, which would, I guess, be season 2 of Academy, but that, I don't know. So
I think they're going to take that last season of Strange New Worlds and put it out this year.
It's possible. I wouldn't discount it. We've joked that, or not joked, but it's like, why not drop them all at once? Do the binge watch thing. But they don't really do that on Paramount Plus, but there's no reason why they couldn't try it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that.
But let's say they're pivoting on TV and they want to wait, then it makes sense for them to burn stuff off in 2027 because they won't have anything else. And they want some Star Trek content to keep the few Trekkies on. So I think they're going to try to stretch it out as opposed to burn it all off. Now, if they've got a Star Trek movie coming out in 2027, they'll want to get all this stuff out before that movie to avoid market confusion. So once the movie hits, that's kind of saying from now on, it's all new Star Trek, whatever the new Star Trek is, unless Academy gets a 3rd season and it's a huge hit. It's, it could happen. I don't have answers.
I just hope they tell us what they're doing because some of us have podcasts to plan.
I know some of us have things to plan. That's why I'm like, please don't ever drop all the episodes at once.
Oh my gosh, no more Prodigy repeats.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, 20 in one day.
And also, I like to savor my Star Trek, and I don't want to feel like I have to rush through it because if I open Blue Sky, it's going to be ruined for me. So, I mean, we get screeners, so to some degree, I'm doing that. But still, it's like I like the weekly drops and the discussions and the endless battles.
Yes. It's really nice to see that the Academy premiere in New York is happening at the American Museum of Natural History.
I'm so
I just
excited.
feel like that's encouraging that they're excited about the show and that it's not just premiering at a movie theater. So
yeah, this is a prestige launch.
Very
like
prestige.
this should be really, really fun, and the list of people who are going to be there is huge. And then there's a junket, so they are definitely going full on PR push for this one.
Yeah, they're going old school junket.
Yeah, like a hotel, and you go and sit in the thing, and there's, I assume, a plant and a poster that I'll be sitting in front of.
And and Laurie Ulster will be there.
I can't wait.
It's talking to Holly Hunter and trying to keep it normal.
45 years of loving her into, I'm gonna do I'm gonna have to rate it on little cards. Just while I'm talking to her, I'm just flashing these signs that just say, I've loved you in this movie and this movie and this movie.
Give her a note afterwards, say, here's all the things I would have said if I had more time.
Right.
About how much I love you. Anyone else have any 2026 predictions or thoughts or worries? I mean, the corporate stuff has got to be, it's like a thing hanging over everything.
Yeah.
I mean, merging Paramount Plus and HBO Max changes everything. I think it's 50-50 that that's going to happen.
I feel a little bit better now. So, I live kind of near Paramount's headquarters in Times Square. And so for a while, they leave their lights on in the windows when they have, cleanup crew at night. So I'd walk by to see what the signs were that you could see through the windows. They're celebrating internally, this is coming out, this is coming out. And there wasn't one up for Section 31, and there wasn't one up for season 3 of Strange New Worlds. And I was like, oh man, this is not looking good for Star Trek. But then now I saw a Delta in the window again. I'm just that's all encouraging to me that they're not dumping it or they don't care. I'm just hopeful that, that said, I haven't really seen anything for Academy around the neighborhood, but hopefully that changes.
Yeah, we should be seeing outdoor for Academy now, and we're not, and that is curious.
Yeah. And we should be seeing them showing up on talk shows.
I was going to say that's something they should do in January, and I'm like, oh wait, it is January.
We're getting really close.
Well, so. I mean, my bet is they're going to do a big thing on Colbert. They might bring in the whole cast. Right. They might dedicate a whole episode to do Paul, then do Holly, then bring in the kids, that kind of thing. And he's going to be at the red carpet premiere too. Colbert. Yeah, I mean, if they were smart, they would have shot a special episode of the Colbert Report on the sets in Toronto. So we'll see if that happens. Not the Colbert Report.
Yeah, I was going to say that was his old show.
The Late Show is Stephen Colbert.
He did do that recently on the show, though. He brought it back for a segment. The Colbert Report. Yeah.
Now that I'm Colbert's downstairs from my apartment, so I'm I need to start doing lots of neighborhood laughs. Try and what's going on there.
You'll have to get tickets if they bring everyone into the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Oh yeah, I have a friend on that show. I should probably give him a heads up that he needs to let me know if there's anything like that happening.
Anyone else got anything they're looking forward to? I mean, a little thing I'm looking forward to this year is 2025 was a bad year for documentaries. 2026 is going to be a good year. We got the Sulu one coming in February. Center Seat, they're doing a second season. They aren't officially saying it, but they are doing it.
They are.
They are doing it. Let's not pretend they're not doing it. They are doing it. And I think we're going to see the Voyager doc in theaters this year, Fathom Events, and the Westmore documentary might come out this year. So this could be a good year for documentaries.
And Doug Drexler is working on his.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't know. Yeah, I don't expect that in 2026.
No, I feel like that one's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
Oh, and also For All Mankind next season, because there are always some fun Star Trek Easter eggs.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The writing room being from Deep Space Nine, and their spinoff. So it's going to be a great year full of great stuff.
And also, Trek Talks 5 is coming.
Yes.
March 28th is going to be Trek Talks this year, and we are in the beginning stages of pitching all. We have our panels. We have a list a very ambitious list, so we'll see how we do as we make our way down. But I was expecting some early rejections that we didn't get, so we'll see if we can actually make it all happen. But there's some really good stuff coming.
And there are some surprises coming this year that haven't been announced. Yes, because it is the 60th anniversary year. Oh, and it's something we haven't talked about. Masked Singer is doing a Star Trek. They've already shot it. But we're going to have a preview of that coming. It's airing in March, and there's a Star Trek themed episode of The Masked Singer coming out.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. So
amazing.
Yeah.
It has Star Trek has turned up in some fun places like was it the HelloFresh meals? They did.
Oh, I forgot about that. Amazing.
Yeah, people were nitpicking, like they're wearing this wrong, or it's like, seriously,
it's HelloFresh, people.
It's a meal kit. They shot a TV, it's like, come on, why didn't they do food cubes? It's like, that's
nobody's
not what
making
they do.
Food cubes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it would be cool if someone did make food cubes. I would buy them, but anyway, so hopefully we see more random collaborations like that are more fun than Kid Cudi, Laurie's favorite.
My favorite is the big splash they made with Kid Cudi
and New York Comic Con.
I will never forget that as long as I live, because I acted like it was such a big deal, and it was just like, who? And everybody was like, who? And he's talking about how much it means to him, and we're like, well, that's really sweet, but I don't care.
Oh my god! And then Ryan Husk had me thinking it was Kid Cutie, and then I said that in public. They were looking at me like I was an idiot.
And that jacket that they were selling for like $800 or whatever it was. I mean, this year the big, like, those Fluvog boots are insanely expensive, but at least they are Fluvog boots. Like, they're really well made. I tried them on; they're super comfy. They're just like 10 times my shoe budget, but for the year. But still, it's very like high-end expensive. So my hope is more accessible, affordable things in the future of merch.
I'm looking forward to the games, because I love the fact that they're making Star Trek games. The demo for the Voyager game was fun, but felt weirdly absent because they haven't added the voices yet. So I don't know why they released it as a demo, because it forces you to read everything. But it looks good, and I'm gonna save Tuvix when the time comes. I've decided.
I'm gonna get the game and kill him just to spite you. So here's my question. So 60th anniversary, we know Paramount will do something for it. Will Paramount specifically, officially include Shatner? That's the question I'll pose to all of you. Because they tend to shy away from him. They tend to keep their distance.
I think so. If they do, especially if they do a special event or something for the 60th, I think how do you not include Shatner, because you're celebrating the original series? So
they'll get Sulu.
Yeah, but they just did. But there was no way you were going to get William Shatner to sit on a parade float for 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever it was.
You'd have to bring him his soup.
Yeah, exactly. George Takei was a trooper because it was raining.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and Rebecca was there, and Tig and Kareem from the new show. So, good for them. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see Shatner and Takei on the same stage at the same time, sometime in 2026. That would be, just get them to be nice to each other for 5 seconds would be fantastic. Maybe that'll happen.
They'll get Walter to come on and he'll mend the fences. Because he says nice things about both of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Are we done? Anyone have any last thoughts on 2025, 2026, 2027? Get in early with something.
Well, here's what I'm going to say personally about 2025. Like Anne-Marie, I didn't go to conventions for years. I was like, why would you go to a Star Trek convention? That's crazy. People do that. And then I started going to conventions with TrekMovie. And then the past few years, it's been, and last year especially, like people stopping me because they know the podcast. I love the podcast. People offering their help. I love the podcast. I heard you mention there was bad audio. I could probably fix that audio for you. Or I took some great pictures. Do you want these pictures? All kinds of that. The opportunity to moderate panels for me is just, it's been increasing and it's incredible. And I've gotten to interview people I get so excited about. And I just think the community itself, that when we're doing stories now, like Tony and I will be talking about, oh, we want to do the story of this history of something, that I feel like I now have a ton of people I can just reach out to and ask, like the people who were there. So I don't have to research and I don't have to look it up in a book. I can ask Nana, like directly, did they do this on Deep Space Nine? And she'll just answer me. And so I feel like that for me has made the year really exciting. And then stories feeding off themselves. Like we do an interview with Kitty Swink and Jonathan Frakes, which sparks an article, which sparks us to interview a whole bunch of people to get all this background information, which sparks Jonathan Frakes saying, I read this article. He's on the Treksperts, saying, I read this article about something. And I'm like, the article was your quote and your response to your quote. And then other people responding to what you said. But that to me has made this year amazing. And every bit of feedback we ever get on the podcast, on the website, just fills me with joy, except when it's mean. Then it makes me really sad. But otherwise, like, it's been a great year for that. And I just appreciate the fandom in a huge way that I was not aware of how glorious it can be before.
I've been thankful this year that people like Trevor and Stanley have joined our team in a way. The Salon is still going, but you're part of the family, I think, now. You've written some stories. You've done some podcasts. Quentin has come on board. Steve has come on board. You know, we have a big, diverse group of people. Anne Marie, you know, you're welcome to come on the Slack anytime. You know, I just, you know,
best invite ever.
So I love that people are saying, we like what you're doing and we want to be part of it, because, you know, we welcome anyone really who's got something interesting to say.
Anne-Marie, you might be the first person that I was aware that I didn't know who was listening to the podcast, because you came up to me and you were like, I love All Access Star Trek. I'm a big fan of it. And I was like, what? Somebody listens to our podcast and likes it?
Yes. Well, that's just, you know, like, say what you will about social media and also the pandemic, but the beautiful silver lining of it all is that it's just become such a community that's also intertwined with in real life events.
Yeah.
And it's just made this amazing like patchwork quilt of all the different areas of fandom and getting to know everybody and all these amazing people and the sci-fi sisters and just like people all over the world. It's really beautiful, and it makes every convention, like, getting to meet people is so special, but then you see them again and again. It's like a family reunion.
Agree.
Family. Indeed. So I want to thank Joe and Trevor and Anne-Marie for joining Laurie and myself for this annual tradition. You're welcome back next year to talk all about everything we got wrong in predicting 2026. And to our listeners, thank you for listening, and have a great New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.